you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Hey folks, happy Thursday evening. This is Scotty Roberts. You're watching my program, the Intrepid radio program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY1.com. Come on over, see all the goodness that's Odyssey Radio. And at the same time, check out the schedule over there. There's all kinds of other shows that go on over there. And you can see this show, rebroadcasts of this show, throughout the day at various times. So check out the schedule. Also, if you are not in the live chat room right now over on my YouTube channel, and you're catching this somewhere else, come and see my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. And click the join button down below. Become a member of the channel. I want to thank you, all those of you who are members, and I want to thank you for being here. And I want to just say hey to everybody. Doug Stack, I see you over there. I need my cheaters tonight. My eyes seem fuzzy today. I don't know what's with that. Doug Stack, good to see you. So I have all kinds of things flashing around me. Susie Q, good to see you as well. And Master Finn, my first mate. Good to see you, brother. Glad that you're here. Who else we got? Barbie D is here. And I think that's it for right now. Field Guy, way up at the top. Good to see you, Field Guy. Glad you're here, brother. And as more people come in, I'll say hey if I see you. If I don't say hey to you, it's not because I don't care. It's because I just didn't see you. I need a fire logo, but low on green. Okay. A fire logo, but low on green. Got it. I think. Let me know what you need, Doug. And so, everybody, how's your day? How's your day been? I hope it's going well. I went to my doctor today, had a nice doctor appointment to find out, why am I so dizzy? Why am I so wobbly? Why is this? Why is that? And it really boils down to the meds they have me on that save my life, that keep me from having heart attacks and stuff like that, are the things that make me wobbly and dizzy. So there was a good and a bad out of that. This is how you try to make lemons out of lemonade. The good and the bad is the good is that it's nothing wrong with me. The bad is that the stuff that keeps stuff from being wrong with me is the stuff that's making me feel wobbly. So there's that. Let's see. Doug says, Field Guy says, I need a logo that makes me get people on YouTube. If you know how to get that kind of logo made, let me know, Field Guy. It'd be kind of nice. I love the people that are here, but it would be also nice to expand our base a little bit, I would think. So who all is here? I see Scott Allen is here. Good to see you, brother. I thought somebody else wandered into the room. I think. I don't see you for some reason. Oh, well. Ah, there you are. I see you. Howdy, homies. So good to see you all. And as you can tell, the office is still not set up. The The studio around me is still stacked with boxes and all kinds of things. Just haven't had a chance to get down to purtifying it. And of course, next week I will be out of town from this coming Saturday, till next Saturday. And I will check in probably with a couple little impromptu videos that there will be no show next week. Now, hopefully, because we're off the air for a week, I don't lose you all to somewhere else, some other better person. But hopefully I can live without you. You can live without me. I'll make a couple of check-ins, and we'll see you back here a week from next Monday. So is when we'll be back in the saddle. Maybe even Sunday, depending on how we feel when we're back from Disney. I think we'll be okay. It's a vacation, right? A vacation, and it's going to be fun. And so I'm looking forward to that. Scott Allen says never, Scotty. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I wasn't digging for I wasn't soliciting anything there, just saying, you know how things are these days. Somebody's gone for a week or two and we all move on. But hopefully this show will always be something that pulls you in and that you enjoy it and it attracts you in one way or the other. So now we've also got, and I need some of you out there, if you know some specialists on this or people who know this stuff. I know Sarah Soderlund does, but I want to talk to some people about this whole cell tower issue. I noticed that my wife, Rainey, has not slept right since we've been here. Sometimes you think maybe it's in the mind a little bit, and the mind makes it work. But I've noticed there's things about me, too, when I'm here. And a little more sick to the stomach these days. I asked my doc about the day. I felt good while we were out. Rainey felt good. She's doing testing at the kids' windows upstairs this morning, just a little while ago. And she's getting like 3.5 spikes up into 9-point-something spikes. It's supposed to be like a 0.2 before it starts affecting people. But here's the dilemma. Here is the quandary, the conundrum, if you will. This kind of talk about this stuff all falls into that whole conspiracy thing. You know, the conspiracy theory, some of it not so far-fetched, some of it a little more far-fetched. The conspiracy thing about, oh, yeah, and everybody wants to talk about, oh, wow, this is wild, the G5 or the cell towers or the radioactivity or the gamma rays or the blah, 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 or the blah, 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 how it affects us. It makes great social media conversation. But who do you find that's an expert where it backs up that data for, let's say, legal reasons or medical reasons or anything like that? Is there data out there that actually backs that up? Stands up, and I'm only asking this not because I'm doing anything legal, but is it stuff that stands up and is recognized in a court of law, as they say? So is that stuff out there? Problem is the science tainted with corporate interests, says Matt Finn. Well, isn't that true? I had asked the question. I asked it here the other night and got the immediate responses I thought I would get. Well, wouldn't the city council or whoever not allow builders to buy and build on this property if it creates that kind of a problem for human beings within a certain radius? Well, the obvious answer is no. No, they wouldn't. You know why? Because there's money to be made. There's money to be. And we talked to some of our neighbors. There's somebody we knew from Scouts who lives in this neighborhood about 10 houses down. So I've been here 18 years, she said, and I haven't noticed any problems with it. Although I know that it can be a problem. I've not noticed it. And there's people living all through this neighborhood that don't notice it. But are things happening? There's the problem. The problem is the people, says Field Guy. You're right, brother. Yeah, and you're right, Doug Stack. Nobody really cares about that stuff. It's because there are $300,000 houses to be built, and people don't want to buy them. So many cultures have reported this with the presence of the towers, says Matt Finn. I believe some people may be more sensitive than others. I think you're onto something there. I think my wife might be more sensitive to it than other people are. And so she feels it. Maybe I'm feeling it a bit and have never realized that this is what it is. I have these symptoms that are like, I got to tell you, I'm wobbly and all of that these days. When I'm sitting here and I'm talking, I can look like I can present a formidable front. But if I stand up and start walking around, I get dizzy and wobbly. And I thought, that's why I went to my doc today. I made an appointment last week. I said, I want to find out what the hell is going on. Why am I dizzy and wobbly? But this didn't start here in this house. It's been going on for months. And I just deal with it. And when we were moving, I think I told you this, John and Brianna Learman, they came over and they were helping us for a week move from the other house to this house. John was helping us every day. And these guys were like, every time they would see me pick up something, they were like, oh, let us get that. Let us get that. And I understand what they see in me. And nobody really talks about it. You're old and frail or you're wobbly or you're whatever. But they notice it. And so they would do this stuff. And my reaction was almost egotistical. It's like, hey, I might be 60, but I'm not elderly. I'm not frail. I'm not falling apart at the seams. I can pick up a box and carry it. And then I found I really couldn't. And so there was one night Bree came up alongside me. I'm walking from the trailer. Apparently I looked wobbly enough because she linked her arm on my elbow and she goes, let me walk with you. And I'm like, I like this, but I don't need help walking. But that's what your ego does. So, boy, my eyes are really fuzzy today, and I'm not sure why. Sometimes that's just a diabetic thing, if your blood sugar goes too high or what. I haven't eaten at all today. I just haven't felt hungry. Now, this is where I wonder if that's a result of some of the tower stuff. I have felt the last week, 4 or 5 days, like almost sick to my stomach, but not quite. And it's got that feel of, am I hungry or not? And then I eat something and it's not right. Rainey made pizza for herself and the kids. Her mom's over. I had a couple of bites of that and I was like, that's not it. I made some lentil soup and that was tasting pretty good. And I got through about a half a cup of that when I said, I got 2 minutes till showtime. So keep close attention to how you feel when you're away from there, says Matt Finn. And you know what? I noticed that today. We were out for a few hours today. Went to the doctor. Rainey had a physical therapy for her shoulder. And so we were out for a few hours, and I felt pretty darn good. I'm in my doc's office, and I came here to talk about this thing that I'm not feeling today now. So he pretty much pinpointed it on a couple of things. He said, it's obviously your heart, because your heart's got some issues. And he says, but couple that with the medication we have you on. And guys, it's a high blood pressure medication that can make you feel goofy, dizzy, wobbly, things like that. And he's got me on pretty high doses of that and pretty high doses of other things. And so he said, it could be just a combination of those things. I didn't even think to bring up the tower issue because I was more focused on the heart issue and stuff like that, making sure it wasn't that. You have to buy a 5G blocker to block the cell pings and such. I'm getting something like those. The aliens can't read my mind. Yeah, but does that block what's coming in through the window? My wife was up in the little girl's bedroom with the window open. She's got a meter, tri-field meter, and she's reading things going up and off the scale, just coming in through the window. And then walks to the other end of the room. It dissipates a little bit. So it's weird around this house, and it's a big house. You walk around, and you're finding pockets of that stuff. Sean Stoic, how you doing, brother? Good to see you in here. Just saw your greeting. So there it is. If anybody here, that's a conversation I would like to have with somebody to find out, just how valid these claims are for this kind of thing. Because we might have to go to the woman who owns this house and say, you know what? Can't live here. But she's also a real estate agent. So we already talked about down the road having her help us find a place. So that might be a animus to get something moving. Tin foil the back of your house. It's thank you, Doug Stack. Tin foil the back of your house. It's only 69 cents a roll. Yeah, do you know you can get paint that blocks that stuff and put it on the wall? But it's like $350 a gallon compared to what? $30 a gallon when you buy regular paint. So tinfoil helps me pick up antenna signals. Yeah, that's what we used to do when we were kids. We had the little black and white TV I grew up with in the late 60s and the early 70s, and we had an antenna. And if the reception wasn't good, you wrapped tinfoil around it. And trying to pick up more, and you needed extended antennas. So, hey, Brianna, how you doing? We were just talking about you. Your nose must be itching. So, Leslie Hoker, good to see you, Leslie. Sorry I'm late, she said. Andy just got home from bear hunting. We're going on a bear hunt. Born on a mountaintop in Tennessee. Killed him a bar when he was only 3. Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier. I remember that from when I was like 4 and 5. We were talking about, just briefly, Rainey and I were talking about we were at the Goodwill we stopped in today. And we were looking at books and all kinds of stuff and saw kids' books. And I said, my first kids' book it was Smokey Bear. I saw a little Smokey Bear statuette behind their glass case at the Goodwill because it was vintage. And it was kind of cool. I would have bought it, except they wanted like $25 for a little. I'm not going to spend $25 on that. Then again, it might be worth more than that. But it was kind of cool. And Smokey Bear was the first book. So the Smokey Bear book and the Davy Crockett book. And they had little 45 vinyl records that you would play. And it would ding when you turn each page. And that's how I learned to read it and stuff like that. So those were my first books. But Davy Crockett, I remember that song from Davy Crockett when I was a kid. So, I keep switching from my glasses to not because my eyes are just funky tonight. I got to get this close to read them through my readers, to read the texts. Brianna says, no, I'm so tired. Oh, but you're here. I'm glad you made it here. Let's see. What else we got? Leslie, did he catch a bear? Asked Scott Allen. And Leslie, did he get him a bear? Leslie, I have an autographed picture of Smokey the Bear. Yeah, we got to compare. We got to compare handwriting, though. Make sure it's the real Smokey the Bear. Michelle Cannon Free, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. McFreedom, says Matt Finn. Let's see what else we got. What else we got in here? Anything rolling? Because I want to do this little book here again because I think this is important. And I just ran into this with somebody else talking about the authoritarianism in America. It's interesting. I went to my doc today, and he asked me. He said, "So, you want a flu shot this year?" And I said, "No, probably not." And I don't get them every year, and never been big on them. Then he said, "How about the vaccine? You've been vaccinated? You haven't been vaccinated." He knows. He says, "Do you want to get one?" And I said, "No, not really." And he wasn't pushing it, which was cool. Now my doc's known me for about 10 years, and or more, 11, 12 years. And so he said, "Well." He says, why don't you want to get one? What's your thoughts on it? He said. And I said, well, I have misgivings about it. And I basically brought up, and we only talked about it for about 4 or 5 minutes, but I said, basically, it comes down to, for me, maybe it's a political decision, I said, because first of all, it seems that everybody that I would have a problem with on the political spectrum pushes it. Everybody I tend to be in agreement with on the political spectrum tends to be they don't push it, and they say it's really your choice, and don't push it on me. And I said, that's the first thing. The next thing, I said, is when my government needs to push that vaccine so much that they push, there's almost a cancel culture to those who don't want to do it. There's heavy criticism. Then they offer your kids ice cream cones. They offer adults money. You can enter this lottery for a new car when you take the vaccine. I said, when the government is doing all that to push that, I said that immediately, without even looking into the details, that raises red flags for me. Why are they pushing it so hard? And my doc said, well, maybe they just are concerned and they really want. And I said, don't get me started about the concern for me. I said, I really don't think that's where it is. And he did say, and now he's a doctor, he probably can't in an official capacity state his political opinions. But he stays away from that in general, personally. But he did say, he said, I will say this. He says, I disagree with trying to mandate it. He said, you cannot step on people's constitutional rights. And I said, I think you and I are probably more on the same page than we think we are. He said, I got vaccinated. And he says, I was fine after the first one. The second one made me sick for a couple of days. He said, and then I was back to normal. I said, yeah, but the big question I have is, what's it doing to you in the long term? He said, the reason it got passed so quickly by the FDA, he says, there's like 6 levels of tests it has to go through. Normally you do those tests all simultaneously, or not simultaneously, in a sequence. He says, now they did it simultaneously to rush this out. So they were all done pretty much at the same time. And I said, my big question is, what is the long-term effect? Because you're hearing all these things about sterilization. You're hearing all these 6,000 plus deaths. That was 2 months ago. I said, I don't even know where it is today. I said, I'm not hyper conspiratorial about this, but I got my questions. And he said, I get it. He says, if you don't want to get it, don't get it. And so, let's see. The government wipes their butts with the Constitution. Ain't that true? Field guy. That's kind of gross and a way to put it, but there it is. Exactly, says Leslie Holker. Anything that messes with your RNA or DNA is not good. Now, I asked him, I said, what have you heard about the whole DNA issue? And he said, well, frankly, he says, you could say the same if they found a cure for cancer, if they found a cure for diabetes. He says, it all fucks with your DNA. And, okay, he's right about that. So there is a question that's still hanging out there. At least he's not pushing it. Now, as a contrast, yesterday, Rainey and I went to get our antibodies tested. And there was a young guy. I want to call him probably a nurse practitioner. I don't think he was a physician. He kind of looked like Dean Winchester from Supernatural with his mask on. I didn't know what his face looked like. But so he's a young guy. He seemed like he was with it and, hip and all that. And he was pushing that vaccine, not in a negative or mean way. Wasn't criticizing, but he pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed that vaccine. And I said to Rainey today, I said, that was pretty crazy that he was pushing that yesterday. And like my doc didn't push it like that at all. And she said, yeah, I'll bet you the guy over at the Minute Clinic where we had our tests done for antibodies, I'll bet you you wonder, do they get kickbacks for how many of those shots they sell? I don't know. So there it is. There's a big question out there. Leslie Hoker says, I know I have antibodies because I didn't stay home, stay safe, and I didn't wear a mask. Yeah, that's it. Now, my doc did say, he said these new variants, he says, can be much more serious than the first time around. And, but he didn't say much about that. I said, I've heard different than that. I said, you're a doctor. What do you know that I don't know? And we didn't get into it. We didn't have an opportunity to get into it super deep. And of course I get kickbacks. You know that. Brianna says, my mom who works at Regions that's a big hospital up in St. Paul here, is mad I won't get the vaccine or wear masks and got offended by my mask that I got that says, "This mask is useless." Rainey's got one that says, "Hitler demanded compliance too." Yeah, they get pretty testy about this stuff. The people that are pro and for it. One of Rainey's own physicians that she sees for her stuff resigned. Not long ago, a few weeks ago, he resigned because he refused to take the vaccination. And they were requiring him to be vaccinated or to be fired or resign. And he'd been there for years, a physician there, and he resigned. So, what is it? Some docs are for it. Some docs are really against it. I think they're just like anybody else. Scott Allen has the same mask as you do, Bree. He wore it at the gym tonight. Outstanding. And why would anyone fear porn? Says Field Guy. Matt Finn. There it is. Truth is therapeutic. Truth is therapeutics work. Truth is, I think you're saying, therapeutics work. Check out Rogan's story. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I saw a meme the other day. Did I say this on here last night? A picture of a guy, and he's holding up a Quaker Oats oatmeal, the round tins, they have. And the caption said, "Can you believe this guy is eating horse food?" So oats, horse food. For those of you who don't know. Yeah, that's it. That's it, Mad Finn. We call things that are meant to scare people, and the same eat it up. There it is. Hi, good night, Scotty Robert. Are you leaving already, Matthew? Oh, that's your good evening. Got it. Good evening. Durwood, good to see you. Nice to have you in here tonight. And so I want to read a little bit more about this from the Authoritarian Moment, because this is important stuff. I wouldn't share it with you if I didn't think it was important for us to take a look at this stuff and think about it. And this is by Ben Shapiro, How the Left Weaponized America's Institutions Against Dissent. And it's called The Authoritarian Moment. And so we've been talking about authoritarianism. And we kind of left off at this point where he was talking about shutting the Overton window. So within the institutions, the authoritarian left's incremental demands have been taken up one by one, from diversity training to affirmative action hiring, from charitable donations to internal purges. And we've all seen this stuff. It's gradualism. It all builds on. And one by one, some of these things aren't bad things to consider or give air to. But when it starts lumping all together and becoming the societal norm, you see how the authoritarian moment has taken over. And but for the generalized impact of institutional takeover to be felt requires one final step: the renormalization of our societal politics in favor of censorship. And that is censoring those who are detractors, those who do not agree with these points of view. And so those who work within the hijacked institutions remain a small fraction of the general population. But they can renormalize the society more broadly if they can convert liberals into leftists. See, there is a difference. American politics is, broadly speaking, divided into three significant groups: conservatives, leftists, and liberals. Liberals may share redistributionist goals with leftists, but can be distinguished from leftists with a simple test: asking whether those who disagree ought to be silenced. The American Civil Liberties Union, for example, used to be liberal. It stood up for the right of Nazis to march through Skokie, Illinois. I've mentioned that case before in 1968. The Skokie, Illinois versus the Supreme Court versus the American Nazi Party. And it was a predominantly Jewish community, if you don't remember this case, in Skokie, Illinois, and the New American Nazi Party in 1968. We're talking 23 years after the end of the war, World War II. They wanted to march in Skokie because of the Jewish population there. Peaceful march they wanted. And they won their case with the American Civil Liberties Union helping them. And I agree with the case. You don't have to agree with somebody's politics in this country to allow them to have equal rights to express their points of view. It's only when those points of view violate civil rights or call on actions against other people. They said that they were peaceful. They just had, and so they had a right by the Constitution, by the rights of the First Amendment to express their cause and express their points of view, even though they're repugnant. And I disagree with them, and most people do. They still had a right to say their piece. And so the the Supreme Court stood with them and said, yes, they have a right, no matter how repugnant anybody believes their case to be, they have a right to free speech and present. That's the Skokie, Illinois case that Ben Shapiro is mentioning here. He says it stood up, the American Civil Liberties Union stood up for the rights of Nazis to march through Skokie, Illinois. Now, however, the ACLU is fully leftist, not just liberal. In 2018, the ACLU promulgated an internal memo explaining our defense of speech may have a greater or lesser harmful impact on the equality and justice work to which we are also committed. We should make every effort to consider the consequences of our actions. And so the bulk of mainstream Democrats and the vast majority of Americans don't stand in favor of top-down censorship. But increasingly, the Democratic Party leadership has shifted from liberal to leftist. This means threatening action against social media companies for allowing dissemination of non-liberal material, or seeking regulation targeting corporations who do not mirror the liberal agenda. Tell me you haven't seen this going on in our country. It's every day. It's been going on for years. Rocky and I and John talked about this on the old Intrepid radio show 6 years ago. And it wasn't new then. Renormalization takes place by inches. Instead of simply calling for outright bans on broad swaths of speech, leftists have insisted that the Overton window, the window of acceptable discourse, is what that means. The window of acceptable discourse in which rational discussion can take place ought to be gradually closed to anyone to the right of a Hillary Clinton. This means savaging conservatives as racists, penalizing liberals who deign to converse with conservatives. You've seen it, folks. This ain't news to you. This means that liberals are left with a choice of their own. They can either choose to form a coalition with leftists, with whom they agree on most policy goals, but with whom they disagree on fundamental freedom principles. Or they can form a coalition with conservatives, with whom they disagree on policy goals, but with whom they agree on fundamental freedom principles. And on the other hand, there are liberals who still stand for free speech, or at least appear to do so. In June of 2020, 153 liberals, ranging from J.K. Rowling to Noam Chomsky, signed a letter decrying the rise of the intolerant climate that has set in on all sides. These prominent thinkers explained the free exchange of information and ideas, the lifeblood of liberal society, is daily becoming more constricted. The way to defeat bad ideas is by exposure, argument, and persuasion, not by trying to silence or wish them away. This is where I agree with my liberal friends. You can't silence the other side in order to win your case. We have a nation that is founded in part on free speech. It is a free society. When you have even a non-governmental entities and movements that work to try to silence a conservative or a different point of view than the leftist agenda. It's what you're seeing now, where they're trying to silence. There's cancel culture. Everybody's offended by something. You got to tear down statues because you're offended by it. You got to cancel people because you're offended by it. This goes on. I got to find my place. The choice is so far up in the air. On the one hand, there are liberals who still stand for free speech. Okay, I read that. The way to defeat bad ideas is by exposure, argument, and persuasion, not by trying to silence them away. That is why I allow debate. People have said to me, you got all these liberals that come into your social media, always arguing with you. I said, I got no problem with an argument. As long as they are not being abusive, they are allowed to express their opinions. We all learn from opinions. We all learn from dialogue. We all learn from debate. Might not change my mind on basic fundamental issues, but the debate is okay to have because it exposes things. It brings it all out to the surface, and you can talk about these things. That's why I don't ban people because they don't agree with my political point of view. I ban people for abuse, not for stuff like that. So the free exchange, so it goes on, but not one. This was a heartening development, by the way, from these 153 from J.K. Rowling to Noam Chomsky. A heartening development, but not one Trump supporter appeared on the letter, which meant the question remained an open one. Did these liberals mainly seek to avoid the radical left's censorious purges themselves? Or did they truly hope to open up the Overton window beyond themselves? There's a good question. Whether liberals side with conservatives in defense of free speech and individualism, or they side with leftists in pursuit of utopia remains an unanswered question. The jury is still out, but time is running out for liberals to decide. Matthew Iglesias, one of the signatories on the Harper's Weekly letter and a co-founder at Vox, if you've ever been to Vox.com, was berated by members of his own staff for deigning to join up with the likes of Rowling, who had been unjustly accused of transphobia. Ooh, transphobia. You're transphobic. If you question it, by the way, if you question the biology of it, the rightness of it, and you're phobic of it, suddenly you're afraid of it. We got that with Islamophobia. I was an Islamophobia. I have an Islamophobia because I questioned what Islamic radicals were doing in this country. So unsurprisingly, Iglesias stepped down from his position at his own website just a few months later, citing the incident. It's a damaging trend in the media in particular. Iglesias told Connor Friedersdorf of The Atlantic, because it is an industry that is about ideas, and if you treat disagreement as a source of harm or a personal safety, then it's very challenging to do good work. And the threat to core American values is only increasing. That's what Ben Shapiro has to say about this authoritarian movement. That's what's going on, folks. And if you think that's a conspiracy theory, you're not looking. Look at the news every day. Who's offended by this? Who's got to resign because he said that? Who's got to apologize to the masses because of the way he said something? He or she. It's become utterly ridiculous in this country. Hey, that's a good idea, Sean Stoic. We've been talking about it, and we've got to do it. Maybe wait till after winter now. We waited too long this year. Maybe next spring or summer. But great idea to have Intrepids all get together for a get-together meetup. I think that'd be cool. Let's see. Doug John's adding you now, says Brianna. David Castle, welcome to the show. Iowa X, welcome. He says, so if a U.S. general is paid $250,000 per year, does it go over $1 million per year with Chinese bribes? Boom. That is a damn good question, Iowa X. Folks, if you haven't heard that, Miley, however you want to say it, there's all this now about him making inappropriate overtures to the Chinese government. Our enemies politically, our enemies of this country, that we tried to maintain a good relationship, and he went over the president's head in secret. There's a lot of question about that going on right now. That's still got to play out. What did Matthew Sainsbury say? Interesting historical point. There was a powerful Ottoman Turk called Mustafa who tried to conquer Europe, and he nearly succeeded, but was defeated in Vienna, Austria on September 11th of 1683. Interesting date correlation. So there you go. Let's move on to something else. I want you all to think about this stuff. Think about it. Watch what's going on. I can't believe this is where conservatives, some liberals, you all look at this and we cannot believe what's happening to the country right now because of leftism. So everybody think about it. Watch what's going on. It's not going to go away. It's already started. It's been a slow slide for 30 to 40 years. This winning over the institutions, winning over the media, and so on. Have you noticed that anybody who's a conservative in the media is already labeled by everyone else on the liberal or leftist side of things as being somebody that should be silenced? Obama wanted Fox News taken down. It's interesting. Silk Road is going to run right through Afghanistan. You ain't, how was I going to say that? Ain't that the truth? Iowa X, ain't that the truth? All right, I'm going to play a little video. It's just a promo for Sunday, which we won't be doing this Sunday. You know why? Because I'll be out of town. But I'm going to play a little video. We'll soften our palates, get the political. This isn't political. This is civics. This is your country. Let's get that off of our breath for now. So we'll take a little, about 30-second break with a little promo for It's Sunday. If you've never been there on Sunday with my wife and I, she hasn't made it to many of them recently. But, I'm just going to share a little good news with you. Brianna knows of this place, the big chiropractic place. It's not news yet that Rainey told you about. Rainey might be, she's very intrigued. He's offered to have her come in and set up her massage studio there in his space for a very affordable cost. And she could do basically 2-3 massages and have it paid for every month. But she's only doing about 2 to 4 massages a week. She doesn't really want to get back into it full time, like I'm booked 9 hours a day. She couldn't function doing that. But she's looking into it, and it's a good possibility she may open up her own place right there. It's just a few blocks from our old house. And she'd have her own studio, and we could start promoting her over there. And she starts doing her own thing locally. So that's some good news in the works. So anyway, let's play this. Let's cleanse our palates and move on. Stand by. And there it is. That's what goes on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. And so welcome back, folks. Let's get into a little bit. We only got about 15 minutes left. We run a little bit over every now and then, but hello, Scotty, someday. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with my hands. I really am. And so let's see here. Let's get into our Jesus, Potter, Harry, Christ. And I got to tell you folks something. It's not, this topic doesn't mean, don't label me as someone who is a non-believer altogether. I'm not atheist. I'm not a non-believer. I have questions and I want to ask those questions. I have a lot of room in my mind and in my heart for Jesus Christ. I've tended to never really want to go do heavy duty examinations of him because it messes with my beliefs. I've always believed he's the Son of God. I've always believed he's the Savior of mankind. I've always believed he's the kinsman redeemer, the Messiah. But when you start doing historical research and you find, it's like Justin Martyr, the 2nd century church historian, apologist, who said he claimed that all these messiahs who came before Jesus were diabolical mimicry, meaning Satan raised them all up to confound the minds of humans so they wouldn't accept God and his son. Now that sounds so far-fetched and so silly and ridiculous. What if he's right? We believe aliens come to this planet. We believe in ghosts. We've seen them. We've got all kinds of weird stuff we believe in, but that there could be a God and that is his son, that there was a divine plan. We're like, why do we throw that out? It's because it's religion. And part of the problem I have is that I've always believed that stuff, but now I run headlong into history, which is hard to deal with. I can say I believe in all the precepts of Benjamin Franklin. And he was a great guy. And he had some great teachings and all of this until you find out, what if you found out, well, he was a fictional character. He was just made up by the revolutionary cause, by the Sons of Liberty to bolster their cause. What would that do to your faith in the sayings of Benjamin Franklin? You might go, well, okay, there's still good sayings, but it's too bad the guy didn't really exist. You know, that's a different thing. He didn't found a religion. But you got to ask these questions. And this is why I do a show like this. These are the questions I want us to consider and I want us to ask. And I think they need to be asked. I think they need to be looked at. And sometimes you're going to end up with, Leslie Holker says, Scott Allen and I read a really good book ago, Echoes of the Soul by Echo Bodine. I know Echo Bodine. I really believe her explanation of reincarnation. The soul lives many times to learn life's lessons. I met Echo Bodine for the first time in the mid-1980s. She was on the, Leslie, maybe you'll remember this. You're local. Brianna, you won't. This was probably before you were born. There was the old, I can't remember the guy's name. On Channel 5, they had the Twin Cities Live show. It was like right after or right before Phil Donahue or something like that. It was the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul version of that show, of that kind of stuff. And she was on the show, and I went down and I met her. My aunt wanted to see her, and so I drove my aunt down. We got in live to be a part of the live studio audience. And then I went down to her shop, which was down on Lake Street in the Hennepin Lake area, where all the riots took place a few years ago, last year, 2019 or 2020, 2020, that neighborhood. And so, yeah, I know Echo Bodine. And I think she knows me too. So we haven't kept up tight over the years, but anyway. So let's go on with this because I want to get into this for the few minutes that we have left tonight. You notice I'm leaving this topic for the last topic of the night to get into. I don't do an hour on these topics. I could. We'd have been all through this material and finished already. But I like to do other things too. I like to get us interested in other things. But I think this is really important for us to take a look at. And so I kind of left off, we're talking about, there's a new section here on Jesus and the Stoic philosophers. Now, I got to put on my glasses. I don't know. My eyes are either really tired or something's up with my eyes tonight. I got to look through the readers. That's the problem. So, what about the teachings of Jesus that are found in the New Testament? Okay. Everybody says the teachings of Jesus are unique. He founded this religion. Maybe he wasn't out to found a religion, but his followers did. Can the teachings of Jesus be traced to innovative ideas that may have come from a historical founder? Actually, there's many Christian ideas and ideals that were already present in Jewish spiritual communities and pagan philosophy. And the Pharisees, for example, the ruling religious class of the Jews in the first century, they systemized works of mercy and charity toward the poor. They systematized them. There was the care of the dead, the burial of corpses, the care of graves, which was in there, which were to become characteristic of Christian practice. They also already believed in an afterlife and a last judgment. Nonetheless, the Pharisaic belief in the afterlife, in its rewards and its punishments, in angels and demons, and also in the ability of each individual to repent of their sin and to earn forgiveness from God by asking for forgiveness, and of the duty to die for the Torah rather than compromise its prescriptions. These were accepted by the people already. Lazarus' sister, Martha, took it as a matter of course that her brother would rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Remember, Jesus went to the home of Mary and Martha, and they were grieving. They called him to come and heal our brother. He's sick, and Jesus was late, and he died, and they ran to his feet and said, he's died because you were late. I think he was, according to the story, at least, he was late on purpose. He was to do this thing. He was to show his power. And the Jesus movement appears unique in preaching that rather than at the end of time, the kingdom and the resurrection was to be found right now, in this lifetime. Did you know that even guys, the apostles, the disciples, the guys who wrote the New Testament, Paul the apostle, they all preached the coming of Jesus, the second coming, and the coming of the kingdom would happen at any time, any moment. They expected it in their lifetimes. Here we are 2,000 years later. So this passionate and motivating belief can be traced to the community at Qumran. Qumran, remember, is the place where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls down by the Dead Sea. And they said, like Jesus himself and the early Christians, the Covenanters expected the rapid end of the age. They were concerned with membership of the future kingdom, and they shared with Jesus' followers a deep interest in discovering signs that might warn them of the approach of the end. And so a similar theme is found in the Stoic writings, the Stoic doctrine of the world conflagration. It describes the destruction of the present scheme of things so that it might begin anew. Hence, Epicurus teaches. Remember Epicurus? He's the guy that we talk about being an Epicurean, or Epictetus. Epictetus. Epicurus. Epictetus. That living in a pot and eating beans. A non-aesthetic way of life. He teaches non-attachment and not to stray too far from the ship, he said. He said this: on a voyage, when the ship calls at the port and you go ashore for water, it amuses you to pick up a shell or a plant by the way. But your thoughts ought to be directed to the ship, and you must watch lest the captain call, and then you must throw away all those things that may not be flung aboard, tied like the sheep, So in life, suppose that instead of some little shell or plant, you're given something in the way of a wife or a child, or nothing need hinder. But if the captain calls, run to the ship, letting them all go and never looking around. What did the Apostle Paul himself say? Apostle Paul said, I wish you were all like me, unmarried, so you could dedicate your lives to Christ. He said, fully, unhindered. So what Epictetus said. So early Christianity developed a similar doctrine of the end of times, when God would destroy the world with fire and natural disasters, and Jesus would return to judge the living and the dead, the quick and the dead, as they call it. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. At that time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the nations in the earth will mourn. That's Matthew 24. 29 through 31. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. Men will faint from terror. Terrot. I'm not even sure what that word is. Terror. Can't read my own notes. My eyes are a little blurry here tonight. Apprehensive what's coming in the world. For the heavenly bodies will be shaken. And at that time they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. That's Luke chapter 21. So rather than Epictetus, the metaphor of the ship, the gospel writers preferred to imagine Jesus arriving like a thief in the night. And it says in Revelation 16, verse 15, it says, but the day of the Lord, this is 2 Peter 3:10. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar. The elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything in it will be laid waste. Then Revelation 16:15, behold, I come like a thief. Blessed is he who stays awake and keeps his clothes with him, so that he may not go naked and be shamefully exposed. That one's for you, field guy. Blessed is the man who keeps his clothes nearby, so he does not go forth naked and be ashamed at his nakedness. So that could apply to all of us in one way, I suppose. But in an eschatological sense, it's the end of the times and the end of the world. So the Qumran community used a dualistic system that was marked by light and dark symmetry. And the two ways, or the two paths, which is common with early Christian texts. The Manual of Discipline, for example, reads, now this God created man to rule the world and appointed for him two spirits he was to walk with until the final inquisition. And this division between a higher divine self and a lower animal self was also common in most pagan philosophical and spiritual traditions. And it was believed that developing this higher self would lead to life, while giving in to the passions of the body would lead to death. So Stoicism also taught, like the Gospel of John, that the Word of God, this is the spermaticus logos, the Word of God, the Word. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. This is the spermaticus. That's the word, the spermaticus logos. And it was the creative force through which the universe was created. And that existed with the Father in the beginning and descended even into men. And according to Seneca said this fabric which you see, wherein are divine and human, is one. We are members of a great body. Nature has made us of one blood, has implanted in us mutual love, has made us for society. The gods are not scornful. They are not envious. They welcome us. And as we ascend, they reach us with their hands. Are you surprised that a man should go to the gods? God comes to men, nay. Nearer still, he comes into men. God comes to men? Nay, nearer still, he comes into men, says Seneca. No mind or men's is good without God. Divine seeds are sown in human bodies and will grow into likeness to their own origin if rightly cultivated. And there's only a little bit of this left. I want to finish this section. It's only 10:02. A couple more minutes, we'll be done with this. As Bultmann pointed out, if the ideas recorded in the New Testament as teachings of Jesus were already present in his environment, they can't have originated with him. Specifically, although there may have been a Jewish teacher or a rebel leader who drew from these beliefs and formulated a synthesis, those teachings, not being original, cannot be used to identify or locate Jesus. The reverse, however, is also true. Just because the New Testament may not refer to a specific, unique historical person, and instead may be a compilation of Christian theology, beliefs, and mythology, doesn't prove that there was not an historical founder behind them. So the conclusion can only be one, that the Gospels of the New Testament are not focused on the historical Jesus whatsoever. They're not there to try to prove to you that he existed historically, and as such should not be expected to give such strong evidence of him. So without conflicting evidence, there is no reason not to take them at face value as relating to a specific historical individual. So in their final form, the Gospels are works reflecting the faith and attitudes of Christian communities some 2 generations after the crucifixion of Jesus. Not 2,000 years, not during his life, but at the time of. And their writers were concerned with the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, as Mark 1:1 says, and not with historical biography. Luke was more concerned with that. He gave us more historical biography than the others. He was called the historian. But the story they tell can hardly relate to a situation other than the land of Canaan, Palestine, Judea, in the first half of the century AD, of the first century, and to an individual who lived in those times. So the story of the Gospels is about an individual that lived in a specific period of history. And as recent scholarship has really proven, we can generate a lot of details about that individual by researching relevant historical data. But it should not be forgotten that this method begins with the hypothesis of an historical Jesus. It starts there. So, to elaborate this point, consider the novel Gone with the Wind. It's about a woman named Scarlett O'Hara, who lived during a specific episode of American history, the Civil War. Tomorrow is another day. But Gone with the Wind is full of passion, relationship, adventure, and dialogue, and made realistic by the inclusion of historically specific details, such as the description of soldiers' uniforms, or the references to real battles that took place, or the burning of Atlanta, or real political leaders. However, we recognize that Gone with the Wind is a story that's written in a certain genre, historical fiction or historical narrative. It can move us, inspire us, motivate and entertain us. A person like Scarlett may really have existed and had similar experiences, but by examining the literary components, we can separate fact from fiction. It's like my book, The Rollicking Adventures of Tam O'Hare. It's about an Irish lord set in the late 1500s, 1542 to the 1580s. And all the personages, Mary Queen of Scots is in the book, Queen Elizabeth of England, Queen Elizabeth I, John Knox, the Presbyterian minister. We've got James Hepburn, the Earl of Bothwell, is in the book. All these historic characters are there. historic name places, Edinburgh, Belfast, the different County Meath in Ireland. All these places existed. Yet, the character of Tam O'Hare is a rabbit. Is there somebody that may have been like Tam O'Hare? Very likely so. His young squirrel squire, Horatio McNutt. Horatio is his, I was going to say the whole name, Horatio, it slipped from my mind. Sorry, my own character, the big long name I gave him. Horatio Thackeray something McNutt. There you go. It's been that long since I've read my own book. These are all fictional characters. But I could put at the beginning of the book, based on historical fact and based on historical characters. But the book itself is totally fictional. So many scholars still believe that the Gospels preserve genuine Jesus-inspired traditions, recollections, evidences of Christianity's historical founder, and in the absence of other indicators, biblical studies would do well to continue searching for him. However, there is other evidence, which is discarded for being irrelevant simply because it doesn't lead to the conclusion that Jesus Christ was historical. And so the circular argument is that any evidence which describes Jesus as in non-historical terms has no relevance to historical Jesus research. And at the same time, some of this evidence comes from Christ-worshiping communities and traditions, and therefore can be useful in understanding the development of Christian history and ideology. And we're going to leave it there for tonight. Tomorrow, we're going to get into the Gnostic Gospels. But do you see and understand what we're talking about with the historic Jesus? There is no proof historically that he ever existed. There's a lot of proof that seems to indicate his followers were the ones who promulgated his historical existence. But there are no records out there that tell you the true historical record of Jesus, because it may not exist. That's the problem. Boy, I pulled a Joe Biden there again. Sorry. Because it's good for you, folks. Come on. I don't mean to whisper like that, but there it is. So, hey, Morgan Snow, good to see you. I hope you're feeling better. Hope that COVID thing kicked it in its ass. Developed some antibodies. So there we go, folks. We're 10:10 p.m. We're done. And we could go through a lot of your comments, but I hope you had a good conversation going on. Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler, says Lizzie Holker. I love that show. One of my favorites. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. So, yeah. And I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. You know what? That's canceled culture now. You can't do that anymore. Wonder if you can watch that show anymore. Just like Mark Twain has been censored, maybe Gone with the Wind's been censored. I know To Kill a Mockingbird's been censored. It's ridiculous. Frankly, Scotty, says Dave Potter, Frankly, Scotty, I don't give a damn. Damn is a 2-syllable word in the South. Damn. All right, folks, that's it. That's all we got for tonight. Thank you, Leslie, for posting that link. That's cool. I appreciate that. And 11:11 on the east side, said David Castle. Ooh, time prompt. So, getting better, Matthew. Thanks for asking, says Morgan Snow. Good to hear. This COVID thing is nuts where I live. Trying to stay safe from it. Stay safe from it, Matthew. Or go expose yourself and get some antibodies. So, but don't get sick. All right, folks, that's it. That's all we got tonight. We're done. And you know what? I appreciate your being here. I appreciate all of you giving me your time and spending it here with me. I hope that I do your time justice. and that there's good stuff here to be gleaned. So you folks have a good evening. I'm going to take off. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm actually started off incredibly tired tonight, and I'm still even incredibly tired now. So thanks for being here. We will see you guys tomorrow night. And you know what? Live long and prosper.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.